I ended up in my 30s, division chairperson for Amtrak for New York and DC. I owned a business, was wanting to scale another business. And I had stopped selling drugs for about 7 years prior, got a phone call out of the blue 7 years later, was like, you know what, I can do this one last run to get this money to open this next business. And it was a federal drug sting operation. Right, that's what I said. So I found myself arrested and put in a county jail in Virginia, Pamunkey Regional Jail. And I thought, well, no big deal. You know, there was no drugs. This was a sting operation. I'll just bail out. And so I get to court. The judge is like, well, you're a drug queen pin, threat to society, no bail. And so I said, all right, well, now I'm going to be a part of this new community. And so now I'm here. And while there, I'm inside and I'm separating myself first because my friends like, don't talk to those people. You're not like those people. And so I didn't. And I was in a cell for 21 to 23 hours a day by myself because I was a federal detainee in a county jail and they kept us separate. And the only time we were able out of our cell was when they did programs. And so there was a GED program. I didn't need that. There was a computer class. I taught that. There was a class where you can go with Bible study. I did that. And then there was NA and AA classes. And so I did those because I just wanted to get out the cell. And so finally, one day I'm just sitting there and in my own arrogance, you know, people are saying, hey, my name is such and such. And, you know, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. And, you know, I'm just like, whatever, you know, people do drugs because they wanted to. This was my thought. And no one put drugs in your hand. You know, you could have made a choice. And then one day I just asked the question, you know, like, why did you use drugs? And this changed my life. And another woman was like, the only time she was able to spend time with her mother was when they smoked crack together. And again, I didn't know about any of these things. And so, you know, I was also raised in the church and I knew who God was. I felt spiritually convicted. And I said, well, you know, I cried and I asked him for forgiveness because I didn't know how I could contribute to the harm of someone else. And so when it was time for me to go to court, I said, well, I can either A, try to fight this case. I was facing 20 years because it was a federal drug conspiracy charge. And it didn't matter that there were no drugs. The fact that someone said that I was going to sell drugs was enough for them to give me 20 years. So I didn't want that. So I said, well, I need to make amends and I'll plead guilty. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll get a few years because I'm taking responsibility and all these things. And so I pled guilty and I got to court and to sentencing and thought that, well, you know, the judge will give me some leniency. I had everyone there, people I worked with, you know, people I went to school with, my family, friends, and people testified on my behalf. And it was time for my sentencing. The judge said he wanted to make an example out of me and sentenced me to 10 years and 10 months in federal prison. And so I got to federal prison and I learned new things. And, you know, I went from being in the county jail with poor Black, white, brown women, low levels of education, low socioeconomic backgrounds, to doctors, lawyers, senators, judges, you know, different opportunities, but it was the same underlying issues: early childhood trauma, sexual trauma and violence, mental health issues, substance misuse. And one night I just asked God, like, you know, what do you want me to do? And it was clear. I would start an organization called the Leaves of Hope Ministries. And the rest is history. I realized most recently, and I tell people all the time, that we do have transferable skills, right? Skills that we may use in one industry or one job, and we can move it into another. And I realized I am a connector. That's what I do. I connect people, I connect and make opportunities. I know how to network. And that was the same thing that I did when I sold drugs. I mean, I was not the person that actually gave the drugs hand to hand. I had to connect and I connected people. So it's just something that was a gift. I use my powers for good now and not evil, which I did before. But, you know, I share that in this room because I know there are people who've lived the same experience as I, and that there are things that we may have done in our past that can help in our present. In being a connector and doing policy, and why I've done all the things is because I kept finding gaps and I kept seeing things that there were things that were missing. And then I would meet incredible people, made the connection with Unconditional Freedom. So I'm hoping we can turn that whole thing into a new prison monastery. So it's all of these relationships, but it starts there. there are ways that we can hold people accountable while also healing them. It does not look like our prison system, American prison system, as we know it today, which is why I feel that there are some incredible programs that I have seen, and I've had the opportunity to visit other prisons around the world, which allowed me to really open my mind and eyes of really reimagining what community could look like when you heal people.